am I supposed to remember these keys? Let's take a screenshot of these keys. I have a feeling I'll need those again. It's really low. Right, let's try and memorize a few of these. Rudder left. Well, I hope I can use the joysticks. Electrical power. Right, shift, and L. Left, control C. Left engine start, right. Right, alt. And home. Oh, crap. Right, control. Oh, seriously, these keys are all over the place. Take off and landing flaps. I'm going to have to rebind some.
Welcome to the SU-25T Frogfoot.
What
the
is going
Frogfoot,
on here?
also called the Crash, is a very capable ground attack aircraft that can destroy most anything on the battlefield. Before we start blowing things up, though, let's first learn how to start up this bird and taxi to the runway. The first thing I'll ask you to do is turn on the electrical power by pressing right shift and L.
First thing I'm going to do is why is it? What? That didn't go so well. Oh, don't restart again. Is this a sign of things to come? I tell you what, first of all, you can assign commands via using right mouse button. Whatever, okay. Pitch. Oh, rudder. Roll. Oh, what was that? Throttle. I also have an Xbox controller, so I need to be okay. So how do I clear RZ? What's that? Don't know. Clear. Thrust. Joystick slider. Don't know. Clear. Okay. don't know what I'm doing. Right, let's not worry about that. Set up general first. Okay, so what I really want is, I would just set up trim. Oh, search, here we go. Trim, can't do. Here we go. So on the Logitech, nose up. Let's not worry about that for now. So that one is, no, I don't want that. I want, oh, you can have the that one's weapon change. Up. Flaps. Obviously not. Okay. Right, you know something, that'll get us going. Let's try this. Blah, blah, blah. Let's
Welcome
go.
to the
Oh,
SU-25T Frogfoot. The Frogfoot, also called the Grach, is a very capable ground attack aircraft that can destroy most anything on the battlefield. Before we start blowing things up, though, let's first learn how to start up this bird and taxi to the runway. The first thing I'll ask you to do is turn on the electrical power by pressing right shift and L.
okay, so number one, the mouse looks around, which I don't like. Is there a way to... Oh. Is there a way to stop mouse look? Okay, first thing I'll ask you to do is turn on the electrical power by pressing right shift and L.
With the electrical power now engaged, you can see that the heads-up display, or HUD, comes to life, as well as many instruments and cockpit lights. Before moving the aircraft, make sure that more than 3 minutes have elapsed in order to let the horizontal situation indicator gyro to align properly. Now that we have power, let's turn on the navigation lights by pressing right, Control, and L. Next, let's close the canopy by pressing left, Control, and C. Our next step is to start our two engines. Before you do so, make sure your throttle controller has a 0 power setting. Start the left engine by pressing right, Alt, and Home.
Why is my throttle not registering? Start pressing right, Alt, and Home.
With the left engine started, press right, Control, and Home to start the right engine. Off the lower left corner of the TV display is the engine gauge, with needles marked 1 and 2 for the two engines. When an engine is being started, one of the two green lights below the gauge will light. Once the light turns off, it indicates that the engine is ready for operation. In the lower left corner of the dash is an aircraft symbol that indicates the status of your flaps, landing gear, and air brake. Lower your flaps to the takeoff position by pressing left shift and F. We're now ready to taxi, so slowly increase the throttles by moving your throttle control forward or pressing page up. To reduce throttle, use your throttle controller or press page down. To use the wheel brakes, press W. Start rolling forward and turn to the left of the taxiway ahead. Press Z to steer left and press X to steer right.
Now, I unbound those controls. Why is it still doing that? So where's my throttle? There we go, that's better.
102. Ассистент. Разрешаю руление на полосу 26.
Don't even know where the runway is. Why am I spinning in circles? There's something wrong here. I'm going to restart this, I think. Oh, have I turned on this nose wheel steering? Is that a thing?
Overg. Hydraulics failure. Hydraulics failure.
The proper way of getting back to the start again. I should really read the manual.
Welcome to the SU-25T Frogfoot. The Frogfoot, also called the Gratch, is a very capable ground attack aircraft that can destroy most anything on the battlefield. Before we start blowing things up though, let's first learn how to start up this bird and taxi to the runway. The first thing I'll ask you to do is turn on the electrical power by pressing right shift and L. With the electrical power now engaged, you can see that the heads-up display, or HUD, comes to life, as well as many instruments and cockpit lights. Before moving the aircraft, make sure that more than 3 minutes have elapsed in order to let the horizontal situation indicator gyro to align properly. Now that we have power, let's turn on the navigation lights by pressing right, control, and L. Next, let's close the canopy by pressing left, control, and C. Our next step is to start our two engines. Before you do so, make sure your throttle controller has a 0 power setting. Start the left engine by pressing right, alt, and home. With the left engine started, press right, control, and home to start the right engine. Off the lower left corner of the TV display is the engine gauge, with needles marked 1 and 2 for the two engines. When an engine is being started, one of the two green lights below the gauge will light. Once the light turns off, it indicates that the engine is ready for operation. In the lower left corner of the dash is an aircraft symbol that indicates the status of your flaps, landing gear, and air brake. Lower your flaps to the takeoff position by pressing left shift and F. We're now ready to taxi, so slowly increase the throttles by moving your throttle control forward or pressing page up. To reduce throttle, use your throttle controller or press page down. To use the wheel brakes, press W. Start rolling forward and turn to the left of the taxiway ahead. Press Z to steer left and press X to steer right.
Один ноль два. Ассистент. Разрешаю руление на полосу 26. 103. Прошел ППМ 4 на 210.
Nice job. You're now heading in the right direction. Keep your taxi speed around 10 kilometers per hour as indicated in the top left corner of the HUD. As you taxi, use small, smooth rudder corrections to keep you aligned on the center of the taxiway. At the fork, hang a right to reach the runway. As we taxi, you can go to external view by pressing F2 and return to the cockpit by pressing F1. You can zoom in and out using the keypad star and / keys. Rotate the views using the keypad direction keys.
I don't remember what brake was.
We've now reached the runway threshold. Taxi onto the runway to the right and align yourself down the length of it. Once aligned down the runway, increase thrust of both engines to maximum and use gentle inputs on the rudder, X and Z, to keep you tracking down the center line.
Not the key I was looking for. Okay. Let's just go for it.
When your airspeed, as indicated in the top left corner of the HUD, indicates about 250 kilometers per hour, gently pull back on the controller and allow the aircraft to fly itself off the runway. Don't yank the controller back to force the aircraft into the air. As mentioned before, your airspeed in kilometers per hour is indicated in the top left corner of the HUD. The top right hand corner of the HUD is your altitude in meters. Between the altitude and speed indications is your heading table. With positive climb established, raise the landing gear by pressing G.
Did I press G too soon?
In the center of the HUD is the pitch and roll indication, and on the right side of the HUD is your pitch level. Pressing left control. This concludes this lesson of starting up the SC-25T, taxiing, and taking off. You can end the lesson now by pressing the escape key.
Let's see if we can do a landing without help. It's not right. My undercarriage is broken.
Fuel 1500. Zero throttle. Is the speed not dropping? No, looks as if my undercarriage is broken. Let's see if we can get this down on the ground.
Заруливайте на стоянку.
That is a flight I can walk away from. I am happy with that. Now, what do we do now? Do I have to go back? Flight controls and navigation. So, left Alt and 2, altitude and roll hold. Left Alt and 2. Man, these are impossible key bindings. Radar altitude. Yeah, these all need rebound to something I'll remember. Air brake B.
Welcome to this lesson on the basic flying and navigation of the SU-25T. This lesson will teach you how to get from point A to point Z and all points in between. I currently have the lesson in active pause. If you wish, you can turn on cockpit lighting by pressing L. Your airspeed is indicated at the top left corner of the HUD. The horizontal line below the airspeed indication, with the caret below it, indicates your acceleration or deacceleration. If the caret is on the left side of the line, you are deaccelerating. If it is in the center, your speed is not changing, and if it is on the right side of the line, you are accelerating. The smaller number above is your set airspeed for that leg of the route when you're in navigation mode. Press.
First of all, I can't hear that.
Spacebar to continue. Your altitude in meters is indicated in the top right corner of your HUD. An R to the right indicates your radar altitude, or height above ground, and not barometric, height above sea level altitude. The smaller number above is your desired barometric altitude for that leg of the route. Press the spacebar to continue. You'll probably notice a circle in the center of the HUD. This provides you poor steering to the next waypoint. By flying the aircraft to align the circle in the center of the bank and pitch indicator in the center of the HUD, you will reach your next destination on the course line. The course line is a direct line between the two waypoints. Press the spacebar to continue. In the bottom center of the front dash is a horizontal situation indicator, or HSI, that looks like a compass. The yellow needle points directly to your next waypoint, and the top left field indicates the range in kilometers to that waypoint. The top right field indicates your course bearing to reach the next waypoint. The double white needles points to your course intercept. When you're on course to the next waypoint, with the yellow and white needles will align. Press the spacebar to continue. Ahead of you are a series of gates to fly through. Fly through the first gate directly ahead of you. You can push the control stick forward to push the nose down and dive, or pull back the stick to raise the nose and climb. These inputs control your elevator. Use the throttle, page up, page down, to control your thrust. Try to keep your airspeed around 620 kilometers per hour. Press the spacebar when you're ready, and I will unpause the lesson. Note that when you pass through a gate, the next one's sequence will become larger if it's rather far away. If you get too fast, reduce the throttle and toggle your air brakes by pressing B. The next gate is above you and to the left. To change your heading, use your aircraft's ailerons to roll the aircraft to the left by moving your control stick to the left, and then gently pulling back on the stick until you are aligned with the next gate. The next two gates are below you and to the right. This time, roll the aircraft to the right and lower your nose to fly through the gates. Fly through the next gate directly ahead. As you go faster, your nose will want to rise, and as you go slower, your nose will want to fall. To keep your nose level, try using the trim. To trim the nose up, press right control period. To trim the nose down, press right control and semicolon. Keep flying through the gates ahead. As mentioned in the previous lesson, you can also move your nose side to side using the rudder while yaw. Yaw left by pressing Z, and yaw right by pressing X. In the lower center of the HUD, you can see the range indication to the next waypoint. In the lower right portion of the HUD is the next waypoint number, in this case, 15. Several autopilot modes that can be quite useful during long flights. These include altitude hold, left alt 1, altitude and roll hold, left alt 2, level flight, left alt 3, parametric altitude hold, left alt 4, radar altitude hold, left alt 5, route follower, left alt 6. You can also toggle route follower mode by pressing A, altitude hold by pressing H. Let's try route follower mode. It will automatically fly our plane. Press left alt 6.
Look at that, just engage autopilot. Where's the next one? Trees. Going to be way for that.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. up. Pull up. Pull up.
Right, okay. Straight to the difficult one. Why not?
In the past 2 lessons, we learned the basics of navigation and landing in the right field conditions. In this lesson, we're going to put what you learned at the test by finding an airfield and landing on it at night during a thunderstorm. Sounds fun, huh? Let's turn on the cockpit light by pressing L. We're currently in route mode, but we have no airfield at the final route destination. So let's select return mode by pressing 1. As I mentioned in the last lesson, the airfield identification number is displayed in the lower right corner of the HUD. 21 is the ID code for Beslan Airfield, the smallest runway I can find in the game, just for you. If you want to get return steering to a different airfield, you can press left control and tilde until you select the airfield you want. A complete list of airfield ID numbers is located in the back of the SU-25T flight manual. For now, let's keep it on 21. Press the spacebar to continue. Using what you learned about course steering through the HUD and ADI, fly the assigned return course that will lead you to the ILS intercept for Beslan Airfield. As you start to descend, you'll probably pick up a lot of speed. Don't forget that you can deploy the air brakes by pressing B. Get closer to the airfield, I should also mention that not all airfields have Russian ILS, as we had in our last lesson. Airfields that do include Mozdok, Krimsk, Mykov, and Krasnodar Center. Being that Beslan does not have this, you will not have the HUD ILS indications. However, if you look down at your HSI, you'll notice a dash across in the center in both solid vertical and horizontal lines. The dash lines are fixed and represent the optimal glide slope and localizer positions for the solid lines. Press the spacebar to continue.
I'm thinking I should have done the last lesson.
If the glide slope bar is below the dash line, you are above glide slope. If it is above the dash line, you are under glide slope. If the localizer line is left of center, you need to fly to the left. If the localizer is to the right of center, you need to fly to the right. You always fly to the left.
Let's go back into the previous one. Stop skipping ahead.
In this lesson, we're going to learn how to navigate to an airfield and land on it. There are 3 navigation modes that we'll be using: en route, return to base, and landing. These submodes are selected automatically at the appropriate points along the assigned flight path, but they can also be cycled manually. In this lesson, we'll use the automatic mode. I currently have the lesson paused as I explain some of the finer points. Press the spacebar to continue. What we'll learn in this lesson is how to navigate to a waypoint using en route mode, switch to return mode automatically, and then switch to landing mode automatically. We're currently in en route mode, as indicated in the bottom left corner of the HUD. This mode allows us to fly from waypoint to waypoint sequence automatically, as we did in the prior navigation lesson. However, in this lesson, we'll try manual selection. Our current waypoint is 0, starting point, as indicated in the bottom right corner of the HUD, with a range of 0. Press left control and tilde to manually select waypoint 1. Good, you will now see that waypoint 1 is selected with a range of 8.6 kilometers. Press left control and tilde again to select waypoint 2. You can see that waypoint 2 is 15.5 kilometers from us. As we learned in the prior lesson, we can see the direct heading of the waypoint is indicated by the yellow arrow on the HSI, and the twin white arrows indicate our path to fly the course line. Directly above the HSI is the Attitude Director Indicator, or ADI. This is a sphere with one hemisphere white and one hemisphere black. In the center of the ADI is a white aircraft symbol. This aircraft symbol stays stationary in pitch, but will rotate as you maneuver and roll. The ADI ball will move in pitch in relation to the aircraft symbol. When the aircraft symbol center is over black, your nose is below the horizon. If the aircraft symbol center is over white, your nose is pointing above the horizon. Press the space bar to continue. In the center of the ADI are two yellow lines that help assist you reach the waypoint near the course line. The course line is a direct line between two waypoints. The vertical line indicates your required ASIM steering to reach and maintain the course line. When the yellow vertical line is centered on the ADI, you are flying on or to the course line. If the vertical line is off to either side, put your stick in that direction until the vertical line centers on the ADI and adjust your roll to keep it centered. The yellow horizontal line indicates your elevation course steering. When centered on the ADI, you are flying at or to the set course altitude for that waypoint. The yellow line is on the lower half of the ADI. Push the stick forward until the yellow horizontal line centers on the ADI and adjust pitch to keep it centered. Conversely, if the yellow horizontal line is above the center line of the ADI, pull back on the stick until the line centers. Along the top and left side of the ADI are your heading and elevation deviation scales. The more the lines are from center, the greater you are off the direct path to reach the waypoint. Let's practice this as we fly to waypoint 2. I won't pause the lesson when you press the spacebar. You'll first need to intercept the course line between waypoints 1 and 2. Note that the ADI steering bars and the HUD navigation circle provide us the same information. Fly the aircraft to center the ADI steering bars by adjusting the pitch and roll to keep the bars centered on the ADI. Or you can fly to keep the navigation circle on the HUD in the very center of the pitch and bank indicator. The choice is yours. Also remember that the assigned airspeed and altitude of the waypoint are indicated as smaller digits above your current airspeed and altitude. Fly to waypoint 2.
I might go in the opposite direction. Understand, this is saying I'm going directly towards it, and yet the distance is counting up. I think I'm going the wrong way. Close. I have no idea what I'm doing. went to waypoint 1 first. Doing a lot of turning, but all wrong. Circles, come on. Waypoint 17. I think I pressed the wrong button. There we go. Doom, doom, doom. Mars, cool. Track hour. Did I move forward whenever I tip my head forward? Rather than just looking down. Uh-oh. That wasn't the right button to press. So waypoint 1. Pilot, do your thing. 6 kilometers in the right direction this time. 0.2. Air brakes. So we're on to a 9 kilometers. Scrub off some more speed. 6. Doesn't lose speed very quick though. It's up there. Airstrip right in front of us. RTM 17. I assume this is where I'm supposed to be landing, but I don't know if that was a success or not.
In this lesson, we're going to learn how to deliver unguided bombs in the Continuously Computed Impact Point mode, or CCIP. Unguided bombs are used in this case, our two one-handers can cover a large fall each of the back bombs has a high explosive load, and remembering the millionaire indicates the bomb already has inactive pause. The first thing I need you to do is select air to ground mode by pressing 7. Do this now. Note that the HUD has changed to remove most of the navigation information and replaced it with bombing symbology. We'll talk more about this soon. You can switch your weapons by pressing D. Try this now. When you cycle a weapon, take a look at the weapon status panel in the bottom center of the front edge. It's the black panel with the shape of a wing along the top. There are 2 rows of lights below. The top row of yellow lights indicates the weapon stations that have weapons attached to them. And the lower row of green lights indicates weapon stations that are loaded with the currently selected weapon type. In the top right corner of the panel, a B symbol is displayed. This indicates that the selected weapon type is a bomb. You can also see the symbol in the lower right corner of the HUD. By pressing left control and spacebar, you can set the ripple quantity, meaning how many bombs are released when you press and hold the weapon release button or trigger. Try this now. As you cycle ripple quantity, take a look at the weapon control panel in the lower left portion of the front dash. In the panel are 2 knobs. The right knob has positions for X1, X2, X4, and BCD. The position of the knob determines how many bombs will be released, as singles, in pairs, 4 at a time, or all at once. You can set the release interval by pressing V. This determines the time between each bomb release. Longer intervals result in greater spacing between bomb impacts. You can view the setting by looking at the position of the left knob on the weapon control panel. The knob has positions for 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4 seconds. The last position indicates salvo mode, in which all weapons are released simultaneously. Give this a try. Press B to cycle the releasing mode. Those are the basics of configuring your settings for bomb release. Now let's learn how to put these bombs on target in CCIP mode. Using what you learned in the navigation lessons, fly through all the gates ahead. Press the spacebar to unpause the lesson. If you are not already, press 7 to enter air-to-ground mode. On the HUD, you can see a pipper with a dot in the center. This is your bombing reticle, and you'll use it to aim your bombs. When you're within valid bomb release parameters, indicated by the launch authorization field of the HUD, the bombs will impact where the bombing reticle pipper is at time of weapon release. Along the left side of the HUD is the range scale bar caret that indicates the bomb fall range. The bottom left corner of the HUD, IP ground is indicated, meaning visual bomb select. The B in the bottom right corner of the HUD indicates you have bomb select. Ahead and below your nose is a set of trucks marked with red smoke. This will be your aim point. When you fly to the next gate, quickly begin a dive onto the target. Dive now to an angle of 50 to 60 degrees as indicated on the HUD pitch scale. Maneuver the aircraft and place the bombing reticle pipper over the targets marked with the red smoke. When the line is drawn from the top of the bombing reticle and the LA appears when bombing the HUD, release your bombs by pressing the spacebar. Control your airspeed by reducing throttle and pressing B to control your aircraft speed. Nice job, you hit the target. I've added some additional targets marked with green smoke to practice on. You can continue to practice, or you can end the lesson now by pressing the escape key.
Fuel 1500.
Why that didn't fire, and then some throttle. Crash. Joystick button 5.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
Over G, over G, over G, over G, over G.
Why won't the cannon fire? Oh, that was the silver cannon, I see. Okay, let's try that again. Let's try that again. Oh, bitch. Somebody donated $50. That's interesting. I don't know how you do that, but thank you. The tracker page appears to have quit.
Pull up. Pull up.
Okay, let's continue on then. It's the phone.
Pull up. Pull up.
Boom. Next one. CC continuously computed release point. Okay. See what this one does.
In the previous lesson, we learned how to put bombs on target using CCIP mode. In this lesson, we'll learn how to do it using the continuously computed release point mode, or CCRP. Whereas CCIP mode requires the place a bomb on the target at time of weapon release, CCRP mode will allow us to drop a bomb on target even when the target is no longer in view. As before, fly through all of the gates ahead. Go ahead and enter air-to-ground mode by pressing 7. When in CCRP mode, the bomb release setting options are the same as we reviewed in CCIP mode. This includes both quantity and interval settings. Continue flying through the gates to reach the target.
Too busy looking at the controls, not where I'm going.
Directly ahead by the lake shore is the target, marked with red smoke. Y to place the pipper in the center of the bombing reticle over the target and press and hold the weapon release trigger or spacebar. When designating for release of multiple bombs at once, it's best to aim slightly ahead of the target, such that the stick of bombs straddle the target. As you hold down the weapon release trigger over the target, you'll notice a green diamond over the target. This marks it as a designation point for a CCRP release. As you approach the target, keep flying through the gates, but keep the pipper aligned with the vertical line at the top of the pitch and bank angle indicator in the center of the HUD. Continue holding down the weapon release trigger.
Oh, okay, I see. So, my target.
Approaching the release point, the time release indication on the left side of the HUD descends, and the release tone is heard shortly before the bombs are released.
That was quite a lot of bombs, just got to go up. I missed. Hi there, this is just the default, whatever it is, road food or something it's called. I have no idea.
Fuel 1500.
Nice job.
Issue 25. Well, so far I am, what, an hour, almost 2 hours into DCS. And I can't say I'm doing terribly well. An awful lot of key bindings to learn. Come on, turn. What's going on? I was a bit crazy and went and purchased the Harrier in the Steam sale. I don't know why, that was a for the moment purchase. But I do like the Harrier. So I'm kind of hoping I'll actually fly it. I've had this game for a long time. Well, I say I've had it on my Steam wish list for a long time. It's never terribly enjoyed this aircraft. Now that I've actually purchased something, hopefully I'll play a lot more.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
I think I hit a tree. Boom. Right, anyway, enough of that. You think the A10's the hardest to learn? I don't know, I reckon the Harrier will be pretty difficult to learn how to hover. Just going through some of these training missions. See if we can get the grips with it, and then I'll maybe be able to figure out what keys to actually bind.
In addition to the unguided bombs we used in the previous lessons, we also have the KMGU submunition dispenser. In this case, we have 5 dispensers loaded with 12 AA 2.5 RT fragmentation bombs apiece. Dispensers are a useful weapon when needed to lay down an elongated path of destruction, great for convoys and runaways. I currently have the lesson in active pause mode. Press the spacebar to continue. On the weapon control panel, using the interval switch, you can press B until SSC MJM series is selected. This is a special release mode for the KMGU submunition dispensers and multiple ejection ranks, MIR. When enabled, the KMGU submunitions are dispensed at 2-second intervals, and MIR munitions are released at 0.3 seconds apart, according to the total quantity specified by the salvo size switch. This allows a larger but less dense submunition coverage. Press the spacebar to unpause the lesson and follow the gates. As we ingress to the target, press 7 to activate air-to-ground mode. following the gates, but try to keep your speed between 700 and 750 kilometers per hour.
It's pretty fast for this thing.
When you entered air-to-ground mode, you probably noticed the bomb reticle HUD. As before, we need to line up the reticle with the target. As long as we keep our speed fast, we can get a good valid bombing solution, even from low altitude. I'll let you decide to deliver the weapon either CCIP or CCRP. On the road between the next two gates is a truck convoy marked with red smoke. This is your target. Line it with the target and place the bombing pipper slightly before it, because there will be a slight release delay as the canister doors open. You may need to start a shallow dive to get a valid bombing release solution if you're using CCIP. Nice work to hit the target. You can end the lesson now by pressing the escape key, or you can locate and destroy another convoy marked with green smoke further down the road.
Stutter.
Pull up.
Oh,
Pull
watch
up.
where I'm going.
Pull up.
It is somewhat satisfying crashing though. One more and then I'm going to take this Harrier for a spin, or try to.
Now that we're getting the hang of unguided bombing, we're going to move on to using unguided rockets. We have many rocket types loaded for this lesson, but they're all delivered in the same way. Basically point and shoot when within range. We'll keep this lesson in active pause mode as we discuss unguided rockets. Press the spacebar to continue. Take a look at the weapon status pane in the bottom center of the front dash. You'll see that except for the most outer and inner stations, all stations are loaded with rockets, indicated by the yellow lights. In the top right corner of the panel is a dash field that indicates the selected weapon type. Currently, no weapon type is selected. Let's select rockets now by entering air-to-ground mode. Press set. Great. Now we're in air-to-ground mode, and you can see HPC, which indicates rockets, showing the current weapon field. You can also see green lines on the active weapon station indication. In this case, the second-most outboard station on the right wing. In the lower right portion of the HUD, we're provided the name of the selected rocket type. You can see S5, which indicates the S5 rocket, which is housed in the UB-32A rocket pod. This is a rather small rocket with a high explosive warhead. Press D to select the next rocket type. The next rocket type is the SA-KOM. This rocket uses the B8M1 rocket pod with 20 rockets per pod. The rocket is 82 millimeters in diameter, has a range of about 2 kilometers, and has a shaped charged warhead to go against targets. Press D to select the next rocket type. This is the S-13EF, which is our close with 113 The rocket is It has a blast fragmentation warhead and has a range of about 2 kilometers. High explosive and blast fragmentation warheads are best used against unarmed and lightly armored targets. However, a direct hit on an armored vehicle may destroy it, depending on the size of the warhead. Press D to select the next rocket type. This 24B is your largest rocket, with a diameter of 600 millimeters and a mass of 235 kilogram blast fragmentation warhead. Given its size, the S-24B is not housed in a pod, but rather directly attached to the weapon station. Press D to select the next rocket type. The other large rocket at your disposal is the S-25 OFM, with a diameter of 340 millimeters and a 190 kilogram warhead. This rocket has the longest range and can reach out to 3 kilometers. Each rocket is housed in a single launch kit. Press D to select the next rocket. The final rocket is the S8 OFB-2. Like the KOM version, it's an 82mm rocket with 20 rockets per pod. However, this one has a blast fragmentation warhead. Press D to return to the S5 rocket. Press the spacebar to unpause the lesson and fly through all the gates ahead.
The problem I have is can't see. There we go. Okay.
As we're en route to the target, we can practice your low-level ingress skills. Nearing the target, we'll initiate a pop-up attack. In the middle portion of your HUD is your rocket aiming reticle. Much like the bombing reticle, this indicates where the rockets will land if you launch them at that instant. However, the range must be within minimum and maximum range value of the selected rocket type.
Trim.
Along the left side of the HUD is the rocket launch zone indication. The top bar indicates the maximum range of the rocket, and the bottom bar indicates the minimum safe range. The caret moves vertically along the left side of the HUD to indicate your current range based on where the rocket aiming reticle is placed. When the caret is between the maximum and minimum range bars, the range is valid. When your selected rocket type is within range, a launch authorization cue will appear on the HUD. At the next gate, we'll start our climb. Make sure your speed is above 700 kilometers per hour. As you pass through the top gate, roll the aircraft inverted and pull the nose down to the target. The target is marked with red smoke. When aligned with the target, roll the wings level while keeping the aiming reticle over the target. Press the spacebar to fire the rockets when you see the LA cue in the HUD.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
I think I missed.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
Nothing so far.
Fuel 1500.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
Over G, over G, over G.
Super buttery. I am failing miserably at shooting anything. What is up?
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
Yeah, one thing left. Is that the rockets? Ooh. Hit track field.
up. Pull up. Pull up.
Doing better than me. No, I don't. This is quite literally I'm what, 2 hours into DCS? So I have no idea what I'm doing. I think it shows.
Pull up. Pull up. Pull up.
Bit low, bit low. It's not a bad little plane. It's well, everything's in Russian. But you don't seem to be able to click any of the buttons in the cockpit, so it doesn't matter.
Pull up. Pull up.
Party walls. Okay, mental note, power cables kill you. What I really wanted to do is have a go at this one. This has been a bit slower to load. Task manager. It's filling up my memory nicely. Oh, 91% RAM. Go on, drop a bit. 85. Good enough. No, I haven't even bound any keys yet, so I don't know what I'm going to do. Jerked.
Welcome to the first training
Whoa.
mission for the RASBAM AV-8B Harrier night attack aircraft. In this tutorial, we will go through the before engine start checklist, explaining the main functions of the systems. Throughout the training, you will be required to press spacebar to indicate that you are ready to proceed to the next step. The instructions will be visible on the screen until you do so. You can take as much time as you want at each phase. Let me know when you're ready to begin.
Yes, the air to ground would be more my sort of thing. So I've always had a thing for the Harrier. I just like that whole low level flying through the mountains, Blowing up buildings and tanks. The whole air-to-air thing just seems a bit boring to me. So press spacebar.
The AV-8B Harrier night attack aircraft is a transonic, day and night, tactical ground attack fighter built by McDonnell Douglas Aerospace. It entered service with the United States Marine Corps in 1991 and is still in service today. The Harrier features high shoulder-mounted swept wings with leading-edge root extensions, or lurks, and automatic maneuvering flaps that aid maneuverability at high angles of attack. The aircraft has overall positive dihedral, aerodynamic, and high lift characteristics, enabling it to carry a deadly array of general-purpose and precision-guided munitions on its 7 external stations. The Harrier has 7 internal fuel tanks with a capacity of 7,759 pounds of fuel, and its range and endurance can be increased with the addition of up to 4 external wing tanks and/or the use of probe and drogue aerial refueling. The aircraft is powered by a Rolls-Royce F402 RR408B Pegasus non-afterburning turbofan engine that provides 22,200 pounds of dry thrust. The F402 engine also has thrust vectoring exhaust nozzles that enable the aircraft to perform its signature vertical or short takeoffs and landings at sea or forward bases close to the front lines. A water injection system used for heavy VSTOL operations lowers the jet pipe temperature and increases the thrust, for a short period of time, to up to 23,400 pounds. Flight controls are hydraulically powered to provide the desired effects throughout the Harrier's speed range, and a reaction control system, or RCS, diverts engine bleed air through the nose, wing, and aft puffer vents for attitude authority in jet-borne flight.
Yes, I have just bought this, so I have. It was kind of a random purchase, having never played DCS before. It was just one of those that popped up on my Steam, and it's just too easy to click buy. But I say, I do really like the Harrier.
The cockpit is divided into 3
Looks
major
really
areas.
nice.
The left console, from aft to fore,
And
contains the
what's
oxygen
not
monitor
like
panel,
about
fuel
vertical
shutoff
takeoff?
panel, pilot services panel, external lights panel, exterior lights master switch, fuel panel, throttle quadrant, stability augmentation attitude hold system, or SAS, and trim panel. The main instrument panel, looking from left to right, contains the landing gear flaps control panel, the combat water panel, the armament control panel, the master armament panel, the left and right multi-purpose color displays, the option display unit, ODU, the heads-up display, HUD, the upfront control, UFC, and HUD control panel, standby flight instruments and indicators, the FLIR power panel, miscellaneous power switch, the circuit breaker panel, the warning lights panel, the engine display panel, the fuel quantity indicator, the electronic countermeasures or ECM panel, the clock, and the brake and hydraulic pressure indicators.
The clock's really important.
The right console, from fore to aft, contains the electrical panel, the VHF-UHF radio set control, the auxiliary communication, navigation, identification panel, or ACNIP, the interior lights control panel, the environmental control panel, the NVG stowage compartment and video recorder, and the ground power panel. The aircraft should be pre-configured by the plane captain prior to entering the cockpit, but it is important to conduct your own pre-start checks. These checks are performed in a left-to-right flow, beginning with the DEX enable switch. DEX enable switch should be set to off. DEX stands for Digital Engine Control System and is responsible for proper functioning of the engine. Make sure that the fuel shutoff handle is also set to off at this stage. In this position, the fuel system is completely isolated from the engine.
I don't know, how do you tell if it's off? Oh, I can't.
Move forward to the pilot services panel and verify that the engine RPM select switch is set to low indicating the low pressure fan RPM on the engine display panel. Selecting high displays the high pressure compressor RPM. Now, set the engine fuel control, or EFC switch, to position 2. This switch determines which digital engine control unit, or DECU, will control the fuel metering unit responsible for the correct fuel flow into the engine. Next step is to verify that the Lift Improvement Device System, or LIDS, is in norm position. LIDS is a retractable fence that, when deployed, increases the vertical lift by directing the hot jet stream energy. It is part of your landing gear system. Good. Now check that the oxygen switch is set to off. This switch controls the operation of OBOGs, or Onboard Oxygen Generating System. Let's move to the H2O dump switch and make sure it is set to off. As the name implies, you'll want to use it to empty the 500-pound tank of distilled demineralized water. Water injection allows you to temporarily increase the engine RPM during takeoffs and landings.
Why would you want to dump that then? But okay.
Moving to the external lights panel, ensure the formation, position, anti-collision, and auxiliary landing light switches are set to off. Verify that the air refueling switch is in the in position. This pressurizes the fuel transfer system, transferring fuel to each center tank in series from all tanks in the group at the same rate that the fuel is being consumed from each group. The left and right dump switches should be set to norm. This powers the left and right fuel jettison valve motors. Now ensure the left and right pump switches are set to norm. These energize the left and right AC boost pump relays located in the lower portion of each center feed tank.
I can't see.
Check that the fuel flow proportioner is set to on. This powers the fuel flow
so that should be
proportioner,
up.
ensuring equalized flow of fuel to the engine between the Harrier's two feed groups.
Set on. Yeah.
Next, ensure the throttle is fully aft in the off or idle cutoff position.
Now why is my throttle not? I have to rebind all my controls now again. T. Wait, that one. What's that? Z? Okay. Nope, still not working.
verify that the jet pipe temperature limiter is set to on. This ensures that the deck's JPT limiter function is not muted. The JPT limiter uses thermocouples in the turbine exhaust sample gas temperature to limit the RPM in different configurations.
Okay, check.
Now ensure that the manual fuel switch is set to off. The manual fuel system provides an alternate means of control if the primary fuel control system fails. It directly controls engine RPM and contains no automatic compensation, controls, or limiters. In the off position, engine control is performed by the decks.
It should be off, okay.
Ensure the parking brake is aft in the on position. The parking brake applies approximately 3 hours of brake pressure in the system and prevents the throttle lever from moving past it while the lock is engaged.
Okay, so I need to bind parking brake. Okay, can you not? I don't have enough buttons. Why can you not bind a keyboard control? What am I doing wrong? Add? No. Oh. Parking brake lever off else on. So that's a toggle switch. Why can you not bind this? No command available for this device. Ah, that's when my throttle wasn't working. Okay. Right, okay.
On the
Don't have to do
Stability
it like that.
Augmentation and Attitude Hold System panel, set the pitch, roll, and yaw stability augmentation system switches to on.
Okay, so they're on.
Set Q field to the on or Q field position. Q field provides artificial longitudinal force feedback due to the primary flight controls being entirely hydraulically powered.
Okay.
Set Alt Hold and AFC switches to off. This disables both altitude hold and automatic flight control modes, which will be covered in a later lesson.
Okay. I thought I would have wanted
Set the rudder
those.
pedal shaker yaw switch to on. Rudder pedal shakers give an early warning of side slip at low speeds. The shaking pedal should be pushed to counteract the side slip. Set the landing light switch to off. There are two landing lights, a 250 watt filament for landing approaches and a 150 watt filament for hovering.
Okay.
Next, move to the landing gear flaps control panel and set the anti-skid switch to on. Anti-skid controls hydraulic pressure to the brakes and prevents skids above 16 knots and partial skid protection between 16 and 8 knots. Note that the anti-skid is inoperative while the parking brake is engaged. Check that the landing gear handle is in the down position. Check that there is no white band showing at the base of the landing gear emergency battery handle, which would indicate that the battery has been previously fired. Next, verify the flaps switches are set to auto and off. Off disables power to the flaps mode switch, and auto provides 25-degree flaps with the landing gear handle in the down position.
Set the flaps to auto. And then back to off. Set the flap switch to auto. It's bound to be that one. And then back to off. Oh, shuts off the part of flaps. So what does this button do? Obviously being thick. Okay, carry on.
At the lower left of the main instrument panel, ensure the water switch, labeled H2O, is in the center off position. This prevents water from being injected into the engine. Verify that the master arm switch is off. On the Armament Stores Management Control Indicator, ASMCI, verify that the selective jettison knob is set to safe, and the manual release control knob is set to norm. Safe prevents selective jettison of stores and suspension equipment.
Oh, yeah, that one. Okay, norm. Yep.
Verify the IR cool switch is off. IR cool begins cooling infrared sensors and stores. Ensure the multi-purpose color display, MPCD, is off. The MPCDs, often referred to as the digital display indicators or DDIs, are 5x5 inch CRT displays surrounded by 20 multifunction push buttons. These push buttons are numbered 1 through 20, beginning with the bottom button on the left side of the panel and counting upward in a clockwise direction. They are turned on and off with the brightness knobs located directly above them. Set the head-up display or HUD brightness knob as desired. The HUD is the primary attitude indicator, weapon status, and weapon delivery display. It displays collimated symbology and is electrically interfaced with the upfront control and HUD camera. Set COM1 and COM2 volume by rotating the knobs to the 12 o'clock position and adjusting as necessary.
Get what? What's the 12 o'clock position? Does not mean these. I think it actually means those.
Set UFC brightness as desired.
Don't know what that is, so okay.
Verify the clock is set to the proper local time.
Well, that's not the time here, but...
Next, bring
okay.
your attention to the miscellaneous control panel. This may be obscured behind the stick. Verify the FLIR switch is set as desired for the mission. For now, leave this switch in the off position.
Okie dokie.
Set the video recording system, or VRS, switches to the auto and HUD positions. Auto mode commands the mission computer to turn on the video recorder when air-to-air, AA, or air-to-ground, AG master modes are selected. HUD records the HUD camera. Set the dual mode tracker, DMT switch as desired for the mission. The DMT allows the pilot to track a pixel contrast TV image, or coded laser energy, for target acquisition and attack runs. For now, we can leave the switch in the off position. Verify that the Inertial Navigation System, or INS mode selector knob is in the off position. The INS is coupled with the aircraft's GPS to provide accurate aircraft and targeting system coordinates for navigation and attack. The INS will be covered in more detail in a later tutorial. Ensure that the display computer, or DP switch, remains in the auto position. This switch controls selection of redundant display channels that drive the HUD and DDI. Auto is the default mode. Next, ensure that the mission computer, or MC switch, is also in the auto position. In the event of a mission computer failure, auto will allow the display computer to be used as an emergency backup. Finally, verify that the probe heat, PRB, switch is set to auto. This switch energizes the various probe sensors on the aircraft, and auto mode removes power from all heaters except the angle of attack case heater with weight on wheels. Once airborne, all probes will receive heat. Below the miscellaneous switch panel, verify that all circuit breakers are in the in positions. There are 7 circuit breakers controlling aileron trim, stabilator trim, rudder servo, flaps, speed brake, landing gear, and the right probe heat.
Okay.
Now draw your attention to the electronic countermeasures panel on the right front dash. These switches control radar warning receiver, expendable modes, and electronic countermeasures, and will be covered in detail in a later lesson. For now, leave these switches in the off position. Let's move on to the right console now. On the electrical panel, verify that the battery switch is set to off. The battery switch powers the ground service, switched battery, jettison, alert, and emergency 28-volt DC buses with generators and transformer rectifiers offline. Set the generator switch to Gen. The main generator is an engine-driven, 30,000 volt ampere, variable speed, constant frequency generator which provides 115/200 volt, 3-phase, 400 Hz AC current to the aircraft main and essential AC buses, and to both the main and standby transformer rectifier units, or TRUs. In this setting, the aircraft generator will automatically come online when the engine reaches approximately 23% RPM. Failure to set this switch may result in a dual DEX failure during engine start. Next, set the VHF/UHF radio remote control on the Auxiliary Communication, Navigation, Identification Panel, or ACNIP, to transmit/receive, or TR.
Okay.
Configure the rest of the ACNIP to suit your assigned mission. At a minimum, verify that the mode switch is set to the upfront control, or UFC, to set primary control of your ARC-210 radios to the UFC, and verify that the identification friend or foe switches are set to norm. On the internal lights panel, set the compass, instrument console, flood, and warning caution lights knobs as desired to suit the environmental conditions.
Yep, fine.
Now, on the environmental control, or ECS panel, set the temperature controller to auto. This electronically regulates the cabin temperature.
Oh, you mean it doesn't set the temperature in my room?
Verify the equipment bay cool switch is set to on. This sends bleed air through a ram air-cooled heat exchanger to the aft equipment bay housing most of the aircraft's avionics equipment.
think you actually mean that one.
Verify the defog switch is in the norm position. This diverts a portion of the cockpit airflow away from the pilot to the windshield defog ducts. Finally, verify that the cabin pressure switch is also in the norm position. This opens the cabin pressure regulator and discharge valve on the forward cabin bulkhead, maintaining a constant cockpit pressure altitude of 8,000 feet. At altitudes between 8,000 and 23,000 feet, and a constant 5 psi pressure differential greater than ambient pressure above 23,000 feet. That covers the after entering cockpit checklist and cockpit familiarization tutorial. You may now continue to the cold start part of the training.
Okay, so they have to quit out and go back in again. There are a few mistakes in that tutorial. But I think we got there in the end.
In this mission, we will start the engine, conduct the post-start before taxi checks, and finish by taxiing to the designated warm-up area. As you have learned in the previous mission, the aircraft should be pre-configured by the plane captain and then checked by the pilot. During these checks, you should at least take care of the following steps. Ensure the left and right pump switches are set to norm. Ensure that the display computer, or DP switch, remains in the auto position. Next, set the VHF/UHF radio remote control on the Auxiliary Communication, Navigation, Identification Panel, or ACNIP, to transmit/receive, or TR. Place the battery switch to BAT position. Look for a voltage of at least 24.5 volts in the battery voltage indicator in order to start either the APU or the engine. Conduct a test of the warning and caution lights by holding the compass light/lights test switch in the lights test LTS test position. Look around the cockpit to ensure all the warning, caution, landing gear, combat switch panel, HUD master mode, in-flight refueling, and threat lights are operational. Note that your warning, caution, and advisory lights are not operational in the aircraft until this test is performed, and that not all lights are capable of illumination on battery power. Press the master caution and master warning buttons to reset the priority caution lights and turn off the voice warnings. Following this test, ensure that the oil light is illuminated, indicating low oil pressure and a properly functioning sensor.
Fuel control. Generator. Fuel control. Generator. Fuel
Next, make
control.
sure the landing gear indicator on the left console shows forward gear down and locked.
Fuel control. Generator.
Yep.
Fuel control.
Checking the aircraft's two igniters is done two ways. First, signal the plane captain to position themselves near the left intake to listen for the first igniter. Press the air start button on the throttle to activate the igniters and listen for an irregular crackle, indicating that both igniters are firing. Note that both boost pump lights should extinguish during this check, since the DC portion of the boost pumps is active while they fire.
start button. So does that mean I can't press the air start button from in here?
Fuel control. Generator. Fuel control. Generator. Fuel control. Generator. Fuel control. Generator.
Yeah, whatever.
At the
Carry on.
conclusion of the first test, the plane captain will automatically position themselves to listen for the second igniter. Select the manual fuel system, or MFS, switch to on. Listen again for the irregular crackle, and watch for the boost pump lights to extinguish. Select the MFS switch to off when complete.
Fuel control. Manual. Fuel. Generator.
Perform a built-in test, or bit, of the engine display panel, or EDP, by pressing the bit button at the upper left of the EDP. Watch for the tumblers to rotate through available numbers, and the overtemp, 15-second, and water flow lights to illuminate. After a successful bit, all lights will extinguish and the nozzle indicator will return to between 0 and 10 degrees. Place the DEX enable switch and fuel shut-off handle into the on position. Perform a fuel panel bit by setting the bingo bug to 4,000 pounds or greater and turning the selector knob to bit and holding it in position.
£1,000 or greater turning base.
The left feed group will indicate 1,400 plus or minus 100 pounds. The right feed group will indicate 2,400 plus or minus 100 pounds. And the totalizer will read 3,800 plus or minus 200 pounds. The master caution, left and right full advisory lights on the arch, left and right, and 250-pound flashers, left fuel and right fuel, will flash. The load and bingo caution lights will also illuminate. Return the selector knob back to total or INT position and set the bingo bug to the briefed value. Next, let's close the canopy in preparation for an APU, or translation start. Pull one of the handles. The lock will engage automatically once it's in full forward position. Watch for the canopy caution light to extinguish. Signal the plane captain that you will be conducting an APU start. This method is useful when you need to use the APU to recharge a low battery, you require use of the radios early, or when you need to conduct a lengthy system entry prior to engine start and don't want to consume an already limited quantity of fuel in the process. A translation start leverages the fact that the APU is already on to power the gas turbine starter, or GTS. Place the APU generator switch in the on position. Watch for the standby transformer rectifier unit, standby true, light to illuminate momentarily and for the APU light to remain on. Prior to engine start, we will conduct a digital engine control system, or DEX, power check by moving the DEX enable switch to off. Look for the electronic fuel control, or EFC, and JPTL warning and caution lights to illuminate. Return the DEX enable switch to the on position. Cycle the EFC switch to position 1. Your EFC caution light should momentarily flash with an associated audible alert. This verifies that the redundant digital electronic control unit, DECU, is functional prior to starting the engine. Reset the switch to position 2. If external power is connected, signal the plane captain now to remove the power cable and wait for confirmation that it is disconnected.
Don't know how to do that.
Place the engine start switch in the forward engine start position. Listen for the APU to decelerate for 10 seconds before the GTS engages to start the engine.
Generator, generator. Generator, generator. Generator, generator.
When RPM reaches approximately 3%, bring the throttle into idle position. Engine light is indicated by a jet pipe temperature rise and rapid RPM increase. Check that the start switch automatically shuts off prior to 15% RPM. Verify that the engine idle RPM stabilizes between 28.4 and 29%, and that the JPT is below 545 degrees Celsius. Now, check that the hydraulic 1 and 2 and brake accumulator gauges read 3000 plus or minus 200 psi. Fully depress the toe brakes and verify that the brake pressure gauge reads a minimum of 2700 psi.
Should change.
Place the
Okay,
nozzles at
whatever.
10 degrees to reduce excessive wear on the tailplane and flaps. Now that we are on engine power, conduct another lights test by holding the compass light/lights test switch in the aft LTS test position for about 5 seconds, waiting for the lid's caution light to illuminate. This delays to check the electrical circuitry on the lid's fence. Upon release of the compass light/lights test switch, all remaining lights indicate a current condition of the aircraft. Once again, check the landing gear panel. You should see 4 green lights indicating all gear are down and locked. Turn on your MFCDs by rotating the off/bright knob at the top of each panel clockwise and selecting day or night as appropriate to the current lighting conditions. Turn on your HUD by rotating the bright knob on the HUD control panel clockwise, setting the brightness as desired. Select Norm on the Norm/Reject 1/Reject 2 switch and select the desired mode with the Day/Auto/Night switch as appropriate.
Don't know what that one should
On the
be.
UFC, turn on both radios by adjusting the volume knobs as desired. Set the bright knob to a level that allows you to read the ODU, scratch pad, and comm channel windows in the current lighting conditions. To monitor the engine, press the push button 18 twice, and then select Engine with push button 11. Check that your inlet guide vane, or IGV, angle is between 31 and 39 degrees at idle RPM, and press the jet pipe temperature JPT button with push button 10 to reset the sortie JPT to the current indicated temperature.
Whoa, weird. What? Press the push button twice. Select G.
Once the engine is started, you may open the canopy.
Why would I want to open the canopy? Nah.
The next step prior to taxi is to begin the inertial navigation, or INS, alignment process. First, verify that the parking brake is set.
Yep.
Now, verify the aircraft's position by pressing the push button 18 and then push button 2 twice. First, enter the EHSD and then to the data page. Once there, press the AC button or push button 16 to update the aircraft position. You will notice a string of 6 zeros on the scratch pad. Use the keyboard to choose N or S hemisphere, and then introduce the full sets of coordinates. You will find these in your kneeboard. Press Enter when you are ready.
Kneeboard. Okay, that'll be something else I need to bind. Okay. How do you show the kneeboard then? Wait, is it a specific thing? Okay, okay.
Now press the position button once again. This time press 4 for west or 6 for east, and once again type in your coordinates. Don't forget that this time you'll have to introduce 6 digits. Press Enter when you are ready to continue. Last thing you need to do is set the magnetic variation. Press the Mag V button on the ODU, press 6 to choose east, and then type 006 and press Enter.
Why do I get the feeling this isn't working? I think I've missed a bit somewhere. Here we go. 4, 5, 3, 7.
Begin ground alignment by rotating the INS knob clockwise to the ground align setting and ensure the MPCD initiates with quality ATT not OK and time counting upward. After approximately 1 minute, you will notice the qual counting down until it reaches 0.7.
What? And you have to quickly 0 to start. really messed this up.
Place the DMT switch in the DMT, or on position, to power on the dual mode tracker. Press the TACAN, or TCN button, and press the on-off button, verifying the ODU is set to transmit/receive. Press the altitude, or ALT button, and press the on-off button to activate the audible alert. Return to the miscellaneous switch panel and power on the FLIR by placing the FLIR switch in the FLIR or on position. The FLIR sensor will begin its cooldown period. Next, we will conduct a JPT limiter check. Place the JPT switch in the off position and observe a rise in RPM, fuel flow, and jet pipe temperature on the EDP, as the aircraft switches from short-lift dry schedule and limit to the short-lift wet schedule and limit. You will hear an audible warning and observe JPTL flashing on the master warning panel. Cycle the EFC switch to position 1. Your EFC caution light should momentarily illuminate and extinguish with an associated audible caution. Reset the switch to position 2. Return the JPTL switch to the on position and observe the associated drop in RPM, fuel flow, and jet pipe temperature on the EDP. Conduct a manual fuel system, or MFS check, by placing the momentary manual fuel man-fuel switch behind the throttle in the on position. Listen for the audible caution and observe the MFS light to illuminate on the master caution panel. Place the momentary man-fuel switch in the off position and observe the MFS light on the master caution panel extinguish. Now we will check the water injection system. Place the water switch in the takeoff position and observe an increase in RPM, fuel flow, and jet pipe temperature as the deck switches to the wet datum. Return the H2O switch to the off position and observe a return to normal idle RPM. Now place the H2O switch in the landing position and observe the same indications as the takeoff position. Return the H2O switch to the off position and observe a return to normal idle RPM. Next, we will check the Enhanced Variable Inlet Guide Vane Control System, or EVIX. First, release the parking brake. Then, select the ENG page with push button 11. Hold your brakes and advance the throttle to 55% corrected high pressure compressor RPM, and then return the throttle to idle. Press the menu button with push button 18, press the bit button, and observe that there are no error codes in the IGV system. Next, set your parking brake. Conduct a trim check by trimming the aircraft's rudder and ailerons left and right through their full range of motion and verifying an appropriate response on the rudder and aileron trim gauges.
Where's these trim gauges then? Of course I don't have food bound yet. Okay,
Cycle the stabilator trim through its full forward and aft range of motion, verifying an appropriate response on either the EDP or AMPCD engine page. Set the stabilator to 4 degrees nose down. This keeps the front RCS duct closed so that you don't inadvertently blow foreign object debris, or FOD, into the engine intake while taxiing.
Do what now? Cycle the stabilizer trim through zero board.
Check your standby instruments by verifying they match other indicators in the cockpit. Uncage the attitude indicator 1 minute after power was applied to the gyro. Turn the cage knob to set the proper attitude. Set the barometric pressure on the altimeter and make sure the barometric altimeter matches the airfield elevation listed in the knee board. Next, enable the onboard oxygen generating system, or OBOGS, by moving the oxygen switch to the OXY, or on position. Now it's time to begin the one-finger check, or flaps bit. Set the flap switches to on and auto. Pass the one-finger signal to the plane captain and press the flaps bit button on the landing gear control panel. The master warning light will illuminate and the flaps position indicator will fluctuate, indicating that the flaps bit is being conducted. When complete, your flaps caution and warning light should extinguish and your flaps should be at 25 degrees. Place the flaps mode switch to the short takeoff and landing, or STOL position, and verify that the aileron droop light eliminates. This indicates that the aileron neutral positions are set to 15 degrees down, producing greater lift in slow speed regimes. Set the flaps mode switch to cruise, watch that the droop light extinguishes, and verify the flaps position at 5 degrees. Two-finger checks verify proper response from the flight controls. Pass the two-finger signals to the plane captain and then move the flight controls through their full range of motion, starting with full left and right rudder deflection. Next, check stabilator by pushing the stick full forward and checking the EDP stabilator position at 11 degrees down. Pull the stick full aft and check the EDP stabilator position at 10 degrees up.
Okay.
Finally, check aileron function with full left and right deflection, ensuring that you can visually see the up aileron above the plane of the wing.
Nope.
Three-finger checks test the stability augmentation and attitude hold system, or SAS. Pass the three-finger signal to the plane captain and initiate the SAS bit from bit 1 page on the right MPCD. Press the SAS button, push button 12, and observe the test appear next to the SAS legend, as well as the illumination, dep res, pitch, roll, and yaw caution advisory lights. A successful bit is indicated by all lights extinguishing. Next, conduct a stores bit check and review the Stores Management System Function Failure, or SMSFF page. Select Menu on push button 18, then Stores on push button 4, and look for any weapon failures or flashing weapon fail indications. Conduct a check of the display processor function by cycling the DP switch between primary and alternate. Set the switch back to auto, which will randomly select an operational channel and provide automatic reselection upon channel failure. Four-finger checks test the air refueling probe for function. Pass the four-finger signal to the plane captain and extend the air refueling probe by moving the AR switch to the out position. Look for the green ready light on the left canopy arch and retract the probe by moving the AR switch to the in position. Verify that the green ready light extinguishes.
There's a green ready light?
Before we can take off and subsequently land, we need to verify vertical landing aircraft performance against the aircraft's weight, current environmentals, and the dimensions of the selected runway surface. This is done through the vertical takeoff, vertical landing, range endurance, speed, and time computer. This is also called the VSTOL rest, or just the VREST for short. Press the VREST button on push button 8 and check the basic aircraft weight, water weight, and basic drag index, or BDI. Box the vertical landing page on push button 6 and verify the outside air temperature, or OAT, field elevation, and gross weight of the aircraft. The GW is the sum of the BAW, fuel, water, and external stores and should be equal to the amount listed on your kneeboard. Next, adjust your cockpit lighting and set your displays. Set your left MPCD to the Electronic Horizontal Situation Display, or EHSD, by returning to the menu page with push button 18 and pressing the EHSD button. Set your right MPCD to the Forward-Looking Infrared, or FLIR page, by returning to the menu page with push button 18 and pressing the FLIR button. Configure the HUD with the HUD control panel beneath the UFC. For now, set the HUD mode to day, adjust the HUD video brightness and contrast as desired with the video brightness and contrast knobs, and raise or lower the seat until the upper combiner glass barely cuts the heading numerals in the VSTOL HUD display mode. Next begins the final checks before taxiing the aircraft for takeoff. Signal the plane captain, verify that the parking brake is set, and turn the anti-skid switch to on.
Anti-skid. Turn the anti-skid switch to on. The anti-skid switch. Oh, here, that one there.
Check the EHSD for proper INS alignment. The goal for INS alignment is a qual readout of less than 1.0 with an OK indication. Rotate the INS switch to the in-flight alignment, or IFA position, once the aircraft has a satisfactory alignment, and verify a tightly coupled GPS and INS with a position/INS indication at the lower right of the EHSD.
Stuff that up.
Verify that the aircraft is properly configured for taxi by checking that it is in VSTOL HUD master mode, nozzles are set to 10 degrees, flaps mode is in cruise, flaps position is 5 degrees, and the aircraft is properly trimmed 4 degrees nose down. Next, select APU on or off as desired. Since it's daylight and the skies are clear with good visibility, we will leave it off. Test the brakes and nose wheel steering by moving the anti-skid switch to the NWS position and obtain taxi clearance from ground.
I don't know how to do that either. Use the normal radio menu. I don't know
Release
how
the
to
parking
do
brake and brake pedals and begin to taxi forward. Tap the pedals to verify proper operation of the brakes.
Why can't the move? Don't make me go on. I'm confused. to have the buttons mapped I need. I don't understand why I'm connected to. What's the air traffic control button? Yeah, here we go.
Chief, remove the wheel chocks. Chief, turn off the ground power. Copy. Unable to comply.
should have got rid of those chocks much sooner.
Request refueling. Request rearming. Copy. Chief, remove the wheel chocks. Refueling complete. Unable to comply.
Right, that is gonna do me for tonight because I'm just getting tired and I don't know what I'm doing.
Rearming complete.
Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.